live.
Yay! Exciting.
When it comes to cancer, there is always one missing link that we generally either overlook or we ignore, but we are very aware of it hovering in the background. And today I am honored to have a guest here on my show that will talk about exactly that, the missing link, cancer and your emotional self-care. So hello everybody, and once again it's Kirstin Nussgruber here from Kirstin'sCancerCare.com, and my distinguished guest today is an esteemed colleague of mine, Dr. Meg Haworth. She is a transpersonal psychologist, and I'm going to read from her very impressive bio right now. So Dr. Meg is a survivor of sexual abuse. He was being drowned, struck by lightning, and she healed over a dozen illnesses, including fibromyalgia. Dr. Meg Haworth knows what it takes to overcome life's biggest challenges and has helped thousands of others do the same over more than 2 decades. She is the founder of Lightning Woman, and I love that title, Lightning Woman, Overcoming the Wounds of Sexual, Physical, and Emotional Abuse. A movement for women who suffered abuse as children and now have chronic illness. Link there, hint, hint, that's what we're going to be talking about. This link has been confirmed by science through the ACE study quiz, and that is available on her website, and she's going to be talking about that here in our chat as well. She is a best-selling author, a speaker, and nutritional celebrity chef. She has been featured on, listen to this folks, NBC Nightly News, the Los Angeles Times, and the Huffington Post. And she offers total wellness solutions from food plans to her whole person integration technique. She has multiple books in cooking and personal development, a podcast series on iTunes, online programs, private sessions, and wellness coaching. And you can find her at meghaworth.com, and we'll be repeating that at the end of our chat. So, Dr. Meg, over to you. So welcome and honored to have you here.
Hi. Hi. Thank you so much for having me, Kirstin. Really appreciate having these conversations to help people get well.
Well, it's so important. I know we're having a huge kind of breast cancer awareness drive here, but to me, it's so important to realize what are the underlying contributing factors so we can address that not only when we are going through a cancer transformation, but also from a prevention point of view. What are the things we can focus on now already? So why don't you kick us off with why you chose this path and kind of, you know, from your accolades and what has happened in your life, what has caused you to do this?
Yeah, thank you. You know, actually, I think this path chose me. You know, it was so many things that happened throughout my lifetime, starting with abuse as a child and going through the drowning, and so there's a significant amount of trauma, and by the time I was in my early 20s, I was in and out of doctor's offices for almost the whole decade, getting one diagnosis after the next, from irritable bowel syndrome. I had migraine headaches that would last for weeks. I had TMJ so bad I could barely open my mouth to put food in. I had to take my food through a straw. I had, it was awful. Chronic depression, so I was on antidepressants. I would get vertigo so bad I'd have to crawl across the floor to get to the bathroom. So they had me on vertigo meds and antipsychotics, and I was just on all these different drugs. Then I had scoliosis on top of that and a ruptured disc in my neck, and I would be in bed for weeks at a time on painkillers, muscle relaxers, and of course I needed antidepressants. You know, that's horribly depressing when you can't get up out of bed and live your life. You know, I was in my 20s when I should have just been having an amazing time. And I did the best I could. A lot of people didn't realize how sick I was and how much pain I was in. Like, you know how it is when you have this invisible illness.
Now, people probably think you were faking it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she just wants attention.
Yeah.
And I knew that was, part of the story that was being told about me. And, it was, I tried as much as I could to not complain, even though I was in excruciating pain every single day. So the turning point moment, though, was I was reading an article in the Washingtonian magazine, that's where I'm from originally, I'm now in LA, on alternative medicine. And it was talking about chiropractic care. I could barely hold up this magazine. I was in so much pain. And I thought to myself, oh, that'd be so great for my boyfriend at the time who had lower back issues. And then, boom, it clicked with me. Wait a minute. You can't hold up this magazine and you're thinking about him and what he needs? What about you? So that's when everything changed in that moment. And that's something I really encourage people to think about, or to look at in your own life. There's these turning point moments that can seem so subtle and like they're not that big of a deal, but as you look back on it, that was a huge deal for me to say, I got to do something different. Picked up the phone, called one of my dear friends who had been raving about her chiropractor. And I said, okay, I had to really burst through some preconceived notions I had about chiropractors being quacks. Yeah. So I was brought up by a scientist mom, both of my parents were very, rational, reasonable, were analytical. So anyway, that was the turning point.
And I like how you say that it isn't necessarily always such a huge aha moment. Sometimes it's just a very subtle little hint that kind of, if we are open to that and if we are wanting to get ourselves out of this kind of almost like a victim mode. In your case, it was this excruciating pain that you had to decide that you want to live a different life. And for cancer survivors, it's just in a similar fashion, when you kind of think, I don't want this to happen again, or I want to know what tools I have at my disposal to at least pave the way that it doesn't happen again. So I referenced the ACE study quiz that you were offering. So can you maybe explain a little bit what ACE is and, for my tribe, and let them know what groundbreaking research this was and how they can really use that maybe as a stepping stone to figure out, is this something that I need to address in my life from an emotional point of view?
Exactly, yes. The Adverse Childhood Experiences Study is the largest public health study ever done. It was done in San Diego at Kaiser Permanente and authored by two doctors there, Dr. Robert Ander and Dr. Vincent Poletti. And it really evolved out of they had an obesity clinic, and they were finding that people would come in, they were morbidly obese. We're talking 300-400 pounds. They would come in, they would lose 100 pounds and be doing really well on the program and then just quit. So what they started doing was just, seeing this trend, and then they started asking them questions. So, and one of the questions that they started asking was, how much did you weigh? And all the questions were, how much did you weigh when this happened? How much did you weigh when you had sex or had your first sexual experience? And one woman said 40 pounds. So he was like, wow, you were just a kid, So then he started to put two and two together and started to realize that this was a significant contributing factor to obesity, which of course we know is another factor for cancer.
Yeah.
So it just, so he started looking at those things, and then from that sprung up this questionnaire about 3 different types of abuse. So we're looking at physical, emotional, and sexual abuse, and then 5 different types of family dysfunction. So family dysfunction could be, divorce, abandonment. A lot of people are a product of divorce. A lot of people had a parent abandoned, and if you think about abandonment, it doesn't just mean they physically left. Sometimes they're emotionally not there for you at all and really don't support you, or they don't support you financially, really. They expect you to go out and do everything on your own at a very young age. There's all these different scenarios that can happen for people. There's mental illness in a parent, or one or both parents. There's incarceration of a parent is something they looked at as well, and how that impacts the child. And there's also alcoholism or substance abuse. And that could be any kind of addiction too. I mean, it could be a shopping addiction. But either parent has, but just something that's taking the focus off of really being present and being that loving parent that all of us want and need, and we all need, and that has a significant impact on the physical body over time.
Yes. And I think important to understand is that, I guess from, in today's age now, we are beginning to make those connections. There are studies existing here. We're talking about it, compared to maybe a previous generation ago where it was just kind of deal with it. Everyone has a problem, so get over with it. Just get on with your life. And people do. People get on with their lives. But what is the problem here? The problem here is that these emotional disturbances, if you call them, they can compound, and they can almost form like a layer around you that really can disturb the flow of energy. It can disturb how your immune system functions. It can have physical effects, not just energetic effects, but physical effects on the body too, which can then pave the way for the development of chronic disease if other factors coincide as well. So that leads me on to the whole discussion, the body-mind paradigm, which to me is very, very important. And when I coach my private clients, it's always an area that we have to address in some way, shape, or form. So how important do you see that with your work and your clients?
The body-mind is, I think, the most important factor. And it's why I ended up in transpersonal psychology, is that I did all the stuff that you're supposed to do nutritionally, taking out the gluten and dairy, and did a full allergy elimination diet. And I got significantly better, but I was still spinning in anxiety and fear that had been a normal spin cycle for me, emotionally speaking, for my whole life. And that's something I think I need to really bring out here right now too, is that what they found in the ACE study is that when you're in fight, flight, or freeze mode as a child, you're developing, your brain is forming. It has a big impact on the brain, for one thing, but you're secreting a lot of adrenaline and cortisol. And those two hormones, you secrete them constantly, and it gets to the point where they become toxic in the body and they wear down the immune system and leave you open and available to illness. So physically speaking, that's the thing that I think people really need to understand. But then emotionally, we know that emotions also, they drain the body. I mean, just think about the things that we say in our language, like, yes, that person makes me sick to my stomach, or I'm worried sick about, or I'm so sick and tired. I bet everybody in this, at some point or another, I'm so sick and tired of dealing with this disease,
Yes, absolutely.
With doctors, all the different things, so, yeah. So we know that emotions drain us, we know it.
I see that in clients as well, or just people that I know. It's when you ask them how they're coping, how they're dealing, and the first answer you get is, same old. There's always something going on. And when you have that mindset, sorry, but you're stuck in it. You are stuck in a particular pattern. And, maybe at that point in time, you can't get yourself out of it, but you need to at least realize that, ask for help, because that is a kind of a mindset that will just perpetuate and make conditions worse for you. And it's almost like, not getting off the hamster wheel. And again, it has these physical implications on the body, which eventually can lead to inflammation. And in cancer, it's this type of inflammation that can fuel cancer growth and can work against you if you are receiving cancer treatments. It doesn't matter what type of cancer treatments, but if you're kind of fueling this underlying inflammation that contributed to you getting cancer in the first place, plus you're receiving very toxic treatments, you're trying to heal from cancer, but you're not addressing that part of it, then to a degree you're adding to your cancer then continue the whole time. So it's kind of a mindset that we need to get ourselves into, that we are our own advocate and we need to take responsibility for this, even though we are going to various centers, institutions, people for help. But we are steering this, and we are still the one and only source of our own health and healing path. Yeah. So In terms of you and for yourself, but also working with your clients, is what would you say is the most important mindset that we are supposed to have to tackle this, especially if we are struggling to adopt this and to do the right thing? If we kind of don't know what to do, what is kind of for you, how do you set your clients off on the right path?
Yeah, it's an excellent question, because I know this is a huge area where people are really struggling with their illness. Because when your reality is telling you, it's giving you feedback every single day that you are really sick and you're hardly able to get out of bed, and it's very difficult to just change your mind, because the evidence isn't there in front of you, So I think it's much deeper than mindset. It's what's in the unconscious mind that's running the show that you're not aware of, that is one of the most dangerous contributing factors to illness in general.
Absolutely.
Particularly to cancer. That was one of the top diseases that they found, of the top 3: cancer, lung diseases, diabetes, that they found connected in the ACE study with adverse childhood experiences. So, autoimmune diseases were up there as well.
Yeah.
And of course, we know there's a major connection between autoimmunity and cancer. Yes. So, that's another thing to remember. Yeah. But back to the subconscious mind and what we're carrying on the inside. When we're carrying a significant amount of resentment towards or guilt and shame, especially when we've been abused as children, we don't realize we're doing that. A lot of people will say, "Oh, well, I've resolved all of that." But your body is giving the feedback that it hasn't been resolved on the unconscious level. You may think that on the conscious level you have, but to go deeper into where it is in the body, and this is what I do specifically with my clients, we go to where is it in the body? Where are you actually feeling that emotion? Is it in your stomach? And we look at the energy system as a way of understanding the attributes from an energetic standpoint and an emotional standpoint. And then we look at the physical system as a way of understanding that, this is directly connected to the disease or the pain that you're having in your stomach. So we look at, we basically give that emotion the one thing it's always wanted. It's the same thing you want. Yeah. It's to be seen, to be heard, to be understood, to be loved and released from the resentment, from the guilt, from the shame. Guilt, shame, resentment, those 3 things are a major contributing, and fear, we'll go for 4 things, are major contributing factor to cancer. That's what I see over and over again in my cancer clients that I work with.
Guilt, shame, fear, and
resentment.
Guilt, shame, fear, and resentment. I'm repeating this because it's so important to acknowledge this and to basically delve into yourself and have a look. Do I have this guilt, shame, fear of resentment? And if I have it, and we all, let's be clear about this, I think we all have elements of that. We are all prone to experience that. It's just the degree to which we allow it to control us and to which we are not releasing ourselves from it, which is where we can influence how we are kind of wired to deal with ourselves. And if we have been diagnosed with a chronic illness like cancer or like an autoimmune disease, that we can actually shift gears and understand that this needs to be addressed as well. I'm so glad that you mentioned that, and that you also mentioned the release part, because just becoming aware that this is maybe driving us or that we're experiencing this is not enough. We need to take it one step further, and we need to release ourselves from these emotional patterns. And that is something where we really need to do it with an experienced expert like yourself. So we actually need to find a practitioner that can help us through with this process, because this is a team effort. Trying to heal and get back to balance and align ourselves, it requires a team, and we need to find the people that are on this team. And also another thing I picked up from you, and I'm glad you mentioned that too, which is the conscious and the subconscious minds. I always use the analogy, I know it's well used, but still, of the iceberg. So our conscious mind is the tip of the iceberg, and everything underneath the water surface, as we know with an iceberg, very often it's 3 or 4 times the size of what is visible. That's our subconscious mind, and that really rules us. That is just what drives everything, and we need to access that in this attempt to release ourselves from these emotional bondages. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely, and that's where the healing happens. And I think this is where I want to mention to your community that it's not as difficult as it sounds. I think that, if you can get that feeling of desperation when you start hearing these conversations, because it's just like, I remember feeling this way, and like it's all my fault, or, because I'm holding on to these emotions, and how do I let them go? And this sense of urgency of wanting to release them. And it's actually a lot easier to heal the wounds of abuse than it is to carry them.
Oh, I love that. That's such a beautiful sentence. Repeat that.
It's a lot easier to heal the wounds of abuse than it is to carry them.
Yeah.
Because carrying them means that you stay in your sickness, and that it doesn't just, your physical, mental, emotional, spiritual sickness, because the sickness it's a holistic thing. I know that Western medical doctors are trained to look at it as, this is a physical problem, we have to deal with it physically.
Yes.
But it's a whole person problem, and to deal with it on all the levels. So exactly what you said, that having a team of people to come together and help you heal, that's exactly what I did. I had a big team. I had over.
So did I, and I still do.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. When things come up, or staying in prevention mode, that's really important.
And things keep on coming up. I think also, in terms of as we are opening up this healing journey for ourselves, we are saying yes to healing. So healing will happen at different layers, and as we are ready. I think that's a very important point as well. We just need to kind of surrender to the fact that we are ready, and we'll heal with the layers as they come up. And it's a continuous process, and it's a good thing. And we kind of emerge each time a little bit stronger, a little bit more wise, a little bit more knowledgeable, and understanding like who we really are. And while we're here.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what a lot of people, what's transpersonal psychology? And you just said it basically in a nutshell. And that's, we look at, answer big questions like, who am I? Why am I here? What's the purpose of my life? And what are these emotions that are sort of in the way of creating the life I desire to have? So, and what are the situations in my life that, that are draining me of my power that I can turn around? Because it's really an internal thing. Your inner world, your outer world's a reflection of what's happening on the inside. Yeah. And you can change that. You can shift that. And the good news is that it's rapid. I mean, it's a rapid acting type of therapy that I do with people. So
that's good to hear, right? So it's not years and years and years.
Yeah.
I remember some clients say to me, oh, I've been with my psychologist for 7-8 years. I'm thinking, still talking about the same thing?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, no, that's not release.
Yeah, and that's a significant point right there is you don't have to sit around and talk about the trauma itself. You've already been through that. And what I do with people is I take them to, where are you right now? What are the emotions coming up for you right now? What's the situation in your life right now? So we stay more in the present moment. It brings us back to those pieces and parts, but it does it in a very symbolic way and not so much as you're going right back to the trauma again.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very different type of therapy.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely wonderful that you address that, and that we have an option of addressing it that way. And it's non-invasive, it's non-threatening, and it's just pure release and pure harmony, restoring that inner harmony so that kind of our bodies can do what they're meant to be doing.
Yeah.
So where can people find you if they are willing to explore this a little bit further? I know you have a website, which is meghaworth.com, and it's spelled Meg, M-E-G, and then Haworth is H-A-W-O-R-T-H, correct?
Yeah.
You have a book. So how can people really get in touch with you, and if they kind of want to get their feet wet, or if they want to really, immediately get in touch with you, what can you share?
Okay, so on my website, I have some free gifts for everybody. I have a free ebook called "The 10 Steps to Overcoming the Effects of Victimization." And in that book is my whole person integration technique. So it's an emotional release technique you can begin to do on yourself. And so it can start getting you acquainted with these emotions that are in there. And you can ask it specific questions to help, and then do a process to release it. I've had people have great success with just the book alone. You can also download the ACE quiz. It's a simple 10-question yes or no quiz, and then you get a score from that. You can contact me directly for a free consultation. So we get a free 20-minute consultation, and we can just talk about what's happening for you. I do an intake, so I've got some questions answered before you even get to the call. So we're not spending the whole time talking about what's going on. And then, if I don't know how to help you, you and I are connected to a huge group of doctors and wellness professionals that I can help refer out to. So I just want people to get help. That's really
Exactly. And sometimes it's us, and sometimes it's a referral, but at least understand that you need a team, and you need to have qualified people on that team. And that's why, there is this vast network of people we can trust. But it does take a village, and the main factor is you need to be willing to just say, I'm ready. And then things just start developing and opening up, and opportunities arise, and names appear, and connections work, and all of a sudden the ball just starts rolling. So that's how it was for me, and that's how I see it happening for so many of my clients as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There is that magical thing when you make a 100% choice, a complete fundamental choice to I'm going to heal this thing.
Yeah.
Everything you need shows up. I mean, the people, the money, the organic food, all the stuff. So, and speaking of which, there's another third free gift, and that's I have a recipe book on there as well. It's 5 anti-inflammatory lunch recipes for people on the go. I've been, a chef for years. It's one of my great loves. It's creating food that tastes amazing, that's easy to prepare, and doesn't make you feel like you're missing out on anything. So,
yeah, that sounds like my territory. Absolutely. It needs to be doable, easy, and still taste good, but still be full of the powerful nutrients that we really need to thrive. So you have obviously applied all of that to yourself. You're walking your own talk, which is really, really wonderful to see. So it was an absolute pleasure to have you here. So if any one of you want to reach out to Dr. Haworth, her website is meghaworth.com. I got that right? Yeah. And I really encourage you to go and explore there a little bit, and just see if any of that would be a thing for you. But it would be a very good start. And that's it. We take baby steps, and then we take bigger steps. But initially we take baby steps, and that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed. It's a process, and I think it's easy to get overwhelmed if you think you have to do it all at once. And
No, not at all. Baby steps, that's absolutely fine. And there's no judgment. That's another thing, right? There's no judgment, because we're all on different planes. And I think in my final comment here is we are all at different levels, and we will be at a beginner level and an advanced level at the same time in different areas of our lives. So it's not just linear that we kind of move through and we always stay there. No, we keep on going back to the advanced, to the beginner stage, and have to in other areas, and have to start from scratch again. And I think we just need to accept that and surrender to that.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for coming on, and great chat today. It was really great to speak to you and see you in our sunny LA.
Yeah, exactly.
So everyone else, take care for now. Thank you for joining me. If you have any comments, leave them in the comments section. I will pop in every now and then to check on the interviews that I've done and see if there are any questions you may have. But thanks for joining us and listening through, and take care for now, and have an awesome day.